In life spanning, there is no plan B. I'm Jean Falacara, and my guests are coming to this podcast for a reason. There's no rules, no BS, just pure biohacking. I don't want to know what you have to sell. I want to know who you are. Welcome to the No Plan B podcast. I'm Jean Falacara, your host, and today I have the privilege of getting on board the king of the core, Dr. Scott Bertrand. And I can say Scott Bertrand because Bertrand is a French name from origin, correct?
Absolutely. You're the only person that's ever pronounced it right on the first go-around.
Well, it's harder for me to say it in English than in French. So Bertrand is hard for me to say. Bertrand, it's fine, and I can say it easily.
It's perfect. Right.
Yeah. So let's call you Doc or Scott. Both will jump and come from one to the other. Tell us more about who you are, where you're coming from, what drives you, because I've tried in the past to do bios of people and my guests, but it's hard and it's very difficult to give the credit that most people deserved in few sentences. But when people are telling their own story, it comes from your heart, it comes from what you have lived, and it's more understandable. And of course, it's more driven by passion. So please tell us more about you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and also for the opportunity to speak with your audience. I think this biohacking space, it's very close to me, and I appreciate that opportunity to have this conversation with you and your audience. A little bit about me, Sean. I was born in Ohio in the Midwest, pretty much blue collar, small town. I grew up with a small 2 or 3 brothers and sisters, that were very important in my life. And then I pursued, like we mentioned earlier, I was involved in science, but I had a gift for some athleticism. My father was one of those athletes that were exceptionally good at everything. My house was full of trophies. We had bowling trophies and archery trophies and football trophies and track trophies and shot put and discus. And so my whole world was wrapped in this enormous athletic world. So it was almost expected of me to go in that direction. And I didn't mind it. So I went in that direction. So early on, I was involved in athletics. I played, high school sports. I went on to play some college football. During that time, when I started playing college football, it was when Vietnam War started. So I'm an old guy. And
you don't look like that old.
Well, I'm definitely out there. During that time, for multiple reasons, I decided to enlist in the Army. And if I was going to have to be in a situation that I was going to have to defend myself, I wanted to be in an outfit, if you would, that had the best capability of defending themselves. Mm-hmm. And also, just chance, they had the best football team in the Army at the time. So I planned on going to the 101st Airborne and playing football if I didn't get sent to Vietnam. So that was the space I was in. I enjoyed my time in the service. I was in the medical, a MASH hospital unit. I was a pharmacist in the hospital, and that's what we did. I never had to go to Vietnam, but part of my story and part of the all-core story, the fact that it even came to be, was because of skydiving. And I injured my back in the skydiving injury. I fractured my back in the skydiving injury, and I was immediately thrust into that physical therapy world at about 19 years old.
Wow. So pretty young. And may I ask what happened to injure your back? Was a free fall, or what was it?
Oh, yeah. Well, we had targets we were shooting for, and I was going to nail this target. But as I was coming in, a wind hit me from right behind and lifted my legs up, and I hit the ground in a seated position.
Ouch.
And you know how hard you hit the ground. And let me tell you, the parachutes they had back during Vietnam were not like the parachutes they had now.
Yeah.
You hit pretty hard, and I hit, and I fractured some. I wasn't paralyzed, and we deal with so many people in that paralyzed community, Sean, that I would never want to say I understand that space. I had a spinal cord injury. I had a temporary problem. I was certainly damaged and in plenty of pain, but I suffer now with no permanent neural damage, and I'm blessed because of that. So I don't pretend to have been in that space. But what it did do, and this is probably all of people now, but the way I was brought up, it was a blue-collar family. Nobody in my family had any medical background. So in our world, the family medical doctor sat next to the Pope. You know, what he said was gold, and whatever he said, and looking back on some of the stuff back then, they were wrong, straight up wrong. But still, we looked at them as gods in that space, never to doubt what they told us to do. At least that was my family. So that was my belief. I injure my back. I go to the physical therapist to get started. And my belief is, let's get started. I'm here. Your job is to fix me. Let's go. Let's get fixed. I surely believe you can do that. Sean, I hope you never have a spinal cord injury, but they're extremely uncomfortable. I can't even begin to, and I know and I didn't have it as bad as they can be, but it was bad enough that I went, oh, this is nothing to fool with. So I go to, again, though, I'm 19 years old. I'm healthy as a horse. I've played college football. Let's do some rehab and get over this. The first thing he asked me to do was kind of bend forward at the waist, kind of touch my toes, for instance. Mm-hmm. And Sean, at that time, if I tucked my chin down, I would almost go into tears because of stretching the spinal cord. And he asked me to do that, and I looked at him, and I thought, you must be crazy. You must be out of your mind. I can't imagine you suggesting me to do that. But I go ahead and try. Like to set me down, like to put me out. And I share that with the therapist, like, whoa. I wasn't a doctor, but I certainly knew the difference between this is making me sore and we shouldn't do this. And this was in the we shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, range. Body signals, yes.
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm not a doctor. I'm going, hey, no. But he continues to insist upon it. And after after 3 or 4 visits, I finally say to him, I can't do this. This is something I cannot do. And he looked at me and said, you know what you need to do, Scott? You need to suck it up. And I went, oh my gosh. Suck it up. I mean, I've been in enough suck it up situations to know what suck it up is, and this isn't a suck it up situation. But I said, I'm done. I quit. But here's what got me, Sean. He stamped my chart and it said non-compliant patient. Boom, set me on Billy.
Wait.
I was not a non-compliant patient. I was the farthest thing. I wanted to get well, and I only expected them to make me well. I eventually healed from that kind of on my own, just a hit or miss. I get through this. But it got me so interested in the spine and the lack of knowledge in the spine that was out there in the medical world that I decided to pursue chiropractic as my career. Mm-hmm. I realized in my mind, chiropractic knew the most about the spine, and obviously where I was, they did not. So I really wanted to know this personally, not only for my own health, because I certainly damaged it, but just from the knowledge base that I just misunderstood. You know, we were brought into this world, Sean, driving this incredible miracle machine, and we spent our lives poisoning it and polluting it and damaging it and abusing it.
Yeah. And we don't even win. Yeah, we don't even know what this machine is capable of. Yeah.
And it's sad. We really don't get like the owner's manual. You know, we come on board and we don't even know how this thing works. And so I realized right as I was going through the spine that we don't really understand. And because of my own personal opinion, we were doing something wrong. But then I got involved in life. I'm going to school. I'm trying to graduate. Getting a doctorate degree.
So you recovered from that, but were you able to move correctly, or were you back on track 100%, or you were missing some part of it? Or
I had instabilities that I was aware of. But I still lifted weights heavily. I still ran continuously. I still did all those things, but I knew what I couldn't do, and so we never put my body there. A deadlift would be an incredible, stupid thing for me to have ever performed. And I personally think nobody should. In my condition, I would never have done that. So I looked at several things and I said, so I stayed really very, very healthy. In fact, as I'm finishing out chiropractic school, I'm almost back to, I may very well be at this point, although I have that instability, as healthy as I've ever been.
Wow.
But then this, and I'm embarrassed to say this, I'm surprised my brother still talks to me, but my brother has a wedding, and I attend his wedding, and I'm one of the groomsmen at the wedding, and we have this kind of silly family tradition, and it certainly is a family silly tradition, but at some point in the reception, in the middle of being inebriated, the groomsmen in their tuxedos would always jump into the swimming pool. I don't know. I guess
I like that.
That was our main tradition. But now picture this day. So my brother's wedding shows up, and he happens to do it at this really nice country club that has this really nice high dive. Well, now we're going to go jump off the high dive.
Of course.
So there's 5 of them.
Yeah.
And I'm the older brother, so I'm running this gang of intoxicated individuals. But I know that we're all getting ready to jump off into a pool, so we need to jump off and disperse, or somebody's going to land on top of somebody else. So I actually said, hey, Joe, you're going to go left. Hey, Mike, you're going to go right. You're going to go this way, this way. So I planned all that out. I'm the last one to jump. I get to where I jump off, and the gentleman that went to the left, which was away from the party, thought that he could swim under me toward the party before I hit him. Sean, I was coming down, and immediately I realized there are no brakes in the air. I can't stop.
Yeah.
I can't stop. My head hits his thigh and breaks his femur. I'm doing everything to stop myself from totally blacking out. And I maintain consciousness, drag my rear end to the edge. But it turns out not only did he break his leg, I broke my neck. So I only did that whole story to say I don't dive anywhere ever, and nobody should. But this threw me back into that therapy space again. So in my mind, Sean, to be honest with you, I know that this device, this invention was given to me by God, and
well,
he kept breaking.
Why?
Yes. And I finally went, okay. I'm going to figure this out. But ironically, it had been another 6, 7, 8 years. I don't know exactly how long it had been from the first time, but I'm back into the rehab world, ready to get fixed. This is a little bit more concerning, but again, no permanent damage. But I know a whole lot more about the spine now. I'm about to graduate from chiropractic school. So now I think I know everything. I surely did not, but I was far more knowledgeable. And off I go to the therapist. The first thing the therapist does is tell me to do the exact same thing. This guy did. And I went, whoa, hold on. Oh my goodness.
I know that already.
That doesn't work. Well, we went back and forth until he said, Sean, I kid you not, Scott, you need to suck it up.
Again.
And that was the day I walked out there and said, I need to fix this. Yeah. There's a major misconception. And that's kind of where this, the whole Allcore 360 came from. I mean, it's taken me 3 decades
to get it to the point it is today. Yeah. So step by step, but before we go, we deep dive into the Allcore 360 core, your machine that you invented in over 3 decades. Your feeling at that time, you have to suck it up. Do you think that is it because of the academic way that these guys have been educated, or is it just because we never understood how it worked?
Well, that is the 2 questions, and I think they're both exactly right. I think I went on into chiropractic school, so I was taught things about the body that I would eventually employ in my practice. Mm-hmm. So I know that therapist was taught that. I know for that I'm sure he didn't go in there with the idea to hurt me in any way. He was trying to help me out. But I also know that unless you have the experience of that, like the person
living it, living,
yeah. And so I don't hold it against them, either one for that matter. And maybe there were other people in that clinic that might have looked at it differently, but it was here's what I found, and I think this was probably one of my eureka moments with this I'm so glad I can talk to you about this because you certainly understand. The body is this incredible survival machine that we're given, and we're going to do everything we can to take care of it. But if we don't look at it as a survival machine, the most efficient survival machine ever created, if we don't look at it like that, then we try to think that what we were taught was smarter than our body. Our body knows how to heal. Yeah. And so what I found, the more I looked at the way we function as human beings, that physicians, the very, very best physicians are the physicians that take the body and look at how the body handles that stress, whether it be a fracture or a cold or a virus, and then do everything that you can do to help the body, to assist the body.
Yeah.
But encourage the body to do what it's naturally doing and stimulate it to do what it naturally does. Not go in there and think you're no better and go, I'm going to do it this way, even though the body wants to do it that way. So that's where this came from. I realized if you took every part of the body and realized it was here purely as a survival mechanism, we don't have extra spare parts. If you figure out what the survival mecanism of that part is,
then
what you try to do is make it better at that.
You are right.
Its ability.
Yeah. Instead of perceiving the body like a functional machine, and then when you get into trouble, most doctors or practitioners they're trying to ease the process of healing and to relieve pain. But our body, like you said, being a survival machine, need the pain trigger to be able to respond to the healing process and generate stem cells recoveries and stuff like that. Without those structures, there is no room for a fast recovery. I love what you're saying. It's part of my story as well in my life, not to your extreme, just a familiar.
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head. Our body knows what it's doing, and sometimes we just need to get out of the way. Right. Just let we have this brain, I've got this consciousness that I call Scott, but Scott's not smart enough to pick up the respirations when he needs to, when he's running up a flight of steps. Scott can't figure that out. That innate survival response that our body has is what we are. We're driving this machine. All we are doing is driving it. That's about all we have.
Yeah, and most people, instead of driving it, they're just on autopilot. So they're not even driving it. It's like they're going with the flow and not even following what is happening to their body. I agree with you. I'm so 100% on that, in agreement with what you said.
Well,
so, yeah.
And that survival, what we decided to do with the All Core 360, and where that came from, was the contemporary approach to training the core. And again, back to my injury, they wanted me to bend forward. And I thought the core is a tube of, here's what's funny, Sean, and this as well as I do. For some reason, we've taken the body, the core, the trunk, and instead of relating to it as a tube of muscle, which is what it really is, we kind of call it a box with a front and a back and a right and a left. That's not really what we are. We're a tube that can move in all 360 directions. So when we do a sit-up, we're picking one of 360 directions and challenging our body. And then we do a side bend, and we pick another one of the 360.
Or crunches or whatever. Everything that we do in gym is just like one motion, one direction. I so agree on that.
And we've got this machine that can not only, but back to the survival thing. I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because here's my other eureka wake-up moment. I told you I was a gym rat. So I did millions of crunches. I did millions of crunch machines. I did millions of leg lifts, sit-ups, and I've done them all. I'll say this, though. I did put at the end of my workout, and I might not have given it as much effort because I hated doing it. But having said that, I still did millions of these exercises. One day, honest to goodness, I walked out of the gym, and a guy who was, I guess he was younger than I am now, but he was older than me at the time, said, "You know what, Scott? Those 100 sit-ups in a quarter will get you a cup of coffee." And I looked at him and realized, oh my gosh, that
interesting.
He was right. What am I doing all these sit-ups for? I never do a sit-up in the real world. There's no particular sporting event where we all lay on the ground and bend in half a whole bunch of times. Why in the world would I work so hard to do sit-ups when in fact that's not even a natural movement? And all of a sudden it all rained in on me that the reason we have a core, the survival response to the core was not to bend in half. What it really is to stop ourselves from bending too far the other way. Right? We break. Yeah. The spinal cord breaks. Right. So the whole reason for the core is to maintain this perfect posture. That is the posture that you have to prevent injury. When you're in that perfect posture, you don't get hurt very much. Mm-hmm. And we do that isometrically. So that's why we have to train the core isometrically, because that's how we use it. Yeah. We don't bend and twist and flip and flop.
Well, but
just
allow
those things.
Me a side joke on that. Our society likes to see us bending forward a lot.
Well, it seems to be. On many levels. That's
what I was saying. Like the government and the IRS and everything, they like that.
That's their preferred position. That's exactly right. Yeah. We spend too much time like that. That's for sure.
It's not natural. Yeah, you're right. So I can keep going.
Yeah, right.
Please. Too funny.
That is too real.
It is, yeah, it is. But you are so right that our body, we don't teach even people to stay in this steady position, to keep this steady position. If you look at people in our work, they're all like most of the time like that or like that, but never they stand steady. So they don't teach their body to stay in the right position, to be in the protective mode, survival mode, like you said. And then when you go to gym, it's almost hilarious to see how people work what we call abs or core. And I think that very few know how to do it. And even, I think without your machine, it's even, I was looking at the video of your machine and I go like, with all the exercises I do on the core, and I think I'm pretty strong on core, but that machine will still, and every time that I go in a gym and people will go, how did you do that? And I go like, it's core. It's mainly it's core. It's because I know every single muscle in my body and I know how to use them. But when I looked at your machine, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to discover way more muscle that I was not even thinking of.
Well, that's one really good thing about the device, because I know you probably have one of the best cores on the planet. I've seen some of your physical performances. I'm blown away by your ability. But what I know is all of us come into the world with three primary imbalances that we almost can't get away from. We're born right or left-handed, and some of us are ambidextrous, but we tend to use that dominant side, which develops a whole imbalance. It just does. Even if it's just an imbalance in my right arm is a little bigger than my left, that means my right side of my spine is bearing more weight, which means that's the side that's going to get arthritis first. Yeah. So all of these things so that imbalance, we've got that imbalance. And the other imbalance we have, and I wanted to bring it up when you said this, we spend all our time bent over. And we do. Our shoulders are in front of our hips. We're leaning over our desk. Yeah. We're leaning over our laptop. We're looking at the phone.
Like people that's like Portuguese
all day. But here's what we don't do. We never lean back. Nobody looks up at the sky. Nobody looks up at the ceiling.
They should.
Those muscles are never engaged. The back muscles are always engaged. The stomach muscles are disengaged. So we have this big front to back imbalance just because of the way we use our bodies. So it's those imbalances, and Lord knows we should be balanced in nutrition and in rest and everything else, but we definitely have to have a balanced body or it will break down. And
correct.
It does.
Yeah,
that's just what happens. It breaks down.
Yeah.
When you see an athlete blow out his right ACL, you wonder, how come the right one went out? This guy's an incredible athlete.
Trained for that.
What in the world could it? Yeah. What happened? I guarantee it was an imbalance. Somewhere there is an imbalance.
Of course. When the stretch is too hard, it just breaks down, and that's the way. And even when they fall, like most people that they don't have the balance that it's worked enough. Probably they lose the mobility that goes with the balance and this core and this old 360 core. The name of your machine is actually so reflecting what it does that you cannot even say I'm trying to work on my 180 or my side, or it's 360.
Right. Yeah. It's unique, and I think that's one of the innovations. We just never really treated it. What we are is tubes, muscular tubes with arms and legs plugged in. And that muscular tube has got hundreds of muscles. But what human beings do is they say, I'm going to exercise the mirror muscles, right? Ones I can see in the mirror.
Yeah.
They forget about all the other muscles, the little muscles that run up and down the spine. Yeah. Most people neglect their back entirely because they can't see it in the mirror. And it's...
and especially the lower back, I guess, is one of the less, I don't even remember seeing people exercising the lower back in gym. Most of the time they do the upper shoulders, but not the lower back, which is part of the core as well.
Oh gosh, without question. And I hate to see it. What we do, we go, and I know again, like you, we go into those gyms and we see all these people that are doing things wrong. But what these people did is they walked into a gym unaware of how their body really functions.
That is true.
They looked across the room and they saw somebody like you who's in this incredible shape, and they go, well, that's what I should do. Well, they have no idea what goes on from where they're at to where you're at.
Yeah.
And so we'll do something wrong. And the gym can be a frightening place for a lot of people. I know you're very comfortable there. I'm very comfortable there, but you'll see the people in there that are lost.
Yeah, I agree.
And so the nice thing about the All-Core, we've created a device that the only athleticism you need to have is the ability to sit. And so
imagine, that's like when you think about it.
That's everybody. Think about it. Even people with wheelchairs, people without legs, people with bad arthritis, everybody can sit. So, and the way we have the challenge by tilting the back and forward, depending on the degrees, we can make it so minimal that a 95-year-old or a 105-year-old person can get on it, and then they get off. And then I put Jean on it there, and Jean takes it all the way down and rides it at the max. And both of them in 10 minutes got an optimal core workout that was balanced. And it was using their body's weight as the proper resistance. Putting a 50-pound plate on my chest and doing sit-ups, well, why would I do that? I'm never going to have a 50-pound plate on my chest.
No.
We do some bizarre things.
Yeah, so true. And the strength that is come from weightlifting, with all due respect with everybody that weightlift, but there's no strength there. Ask the biggest bodybuilder, that the strongest weightlifter, that he does 2,000 curls to lift him up by one arm on the bar, is not capable of doing that. But he has huge muscle. I don't have huge muscle, but I can do it.
Right. And that's what I think your body was designed. Your body was designed by God to move through space against gravity, period, end of story. That's it. It wasn't designed to hit golf balls or lift 500 pounds or all these things that we do. We were designed to move through space elegantly like animals.
Yeah.
Efficiently and elegantly and gracefully. And all our body parts were just designed to move our body's weight. So,
Scott,
using
you
your
think
body's
that...
weight.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that. Yeah.
No.
I think that we lost that capabilities because we are the result of millions years of evolution. When I look at some people, I don't think it is that accurate, but let's pretend.
That's right. Let's skip the mental aspect completely. Let's talk about the mental.
No judgment. But we are this species that have been following the Darwinism law of adaptation and from the environment and things like that. So when we go back to where we were millions years ago, were we able to move and to have the proper balance and a core that it was like sustainable for our movement in general, and we lost it because of our society or the way that we work, we live, we drive probably, or cars and stuff like that?
I have to say yes, and yes. I would almost guarantee, even you could do this right now. You could look at a picture of New York City 50 years ago or 100 years ago, and there's not an overweight person in the crowd. We have continually gotten worse and worse and worse. And yes, it's society and it's the ease of survival. We used to have to cross the desert to find the orange that had a little bit of sugar in it to survive. Now we can't get down the grocery store aisle without more sugar in the very first item than we could have gotten in a year in the, crossing the plains.
Yeah, so true. We should stop saying that it's the law of evolution. We are not evolving anymore. We are going the wrong way, all the way. Yeah.
We are. We're devolving. We really are devolving.
Yeah. So, Scott, how did you design? Let's give. We're going to put some videos of your machine in between of our talks so people can see it. But explain it, please, because when I talk about core, most of my audience will look at, one of the best tools for core, but is a one direction movement, was the hub roller so far. And when people talk about core, they're going to go, oh, is it some things like the app roller? Is it some things that you bend? No, tell more what your machine looks like and how did you come up with that? Because you were saying a few minutes before, you just have to sit on it. This is crazy.
Right. It is true. And when I walked out of the second time that the therapist told me to suck it up, I went back and said, I'm just going to wipe the slate clean. And like we talked about before, I was just going to start at the beginning and come up with how the body uses the core to survive and then figure out maybe where the best way to challenge it was. Now, having said that sounds easy when that comes out of my mouth, but the all core isn't here yet. And that's what I needed to do. And I really am trying to conceptualize it. And here's the parameters I put on it at the beginning. For one thing, when we went to the gym and trained our core adequately, let's just say adequately, it still took 15 or 20 minutes. It'd take 5 or 10 minutes for the sit-ups and 5 or 10 minutes for the back. And so you were easily putting in 20 or 30 minutes, which turned a lot of people off because in the fitness world, all we ever heard was, I don't have enough time. So the first thing I had to come up with was, I need to make this challenge where they can be done with it in 10 minutes. I mean, I could have arbitrarily picked 12 or 15, but 10 minutes was the one I started with because I thought people would give 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But here's what's interesting when I say that. 10 minutes seems like a real short time. 10 minutes is about how much time it takes to run a mile. Well, go out and run a mile and see if that's easy. So I'm not even pretending 10 minutes is easy. but 10 minutes is a amount of time people could handle. So I thought, okay, it has to be 10 minutes. Secondly, we don't use the core isotonically, so it has to be an isometric exercise. It's got to be an isometric exercise because that's how we use it. And planks were available then. Planks had kind of just started back when I was doing this, and they were correct. They were using their body's weight against gravity. But at the beginning, it was just really 1 degree, just straight up and down on your elbows. If your elbow was sore that day, you just weren't doing anything as a plank. So it was dependent on your extremities. So I immediately had to say, well, this can't be dependent on the extremities. I want to train just the core. And
when you look at just the core, how can you just focus on this?
Just train that.
Yeah.
And so those are all the problems that are running around in my head. And again, I fully believe that the proper resistance was the weight of the body, not tubes or cylinders or rubber bands or weights or anything that we could add to it, the weight of the body. So again, those are all the concepts. And Sean, I was struggling with them. I really was struggling with them. And that's why I said to you, I think this came from God, because you know the hypnagogic state. You know that state we get into as we're drifting off to sleep. Yeah. I'm studying this thing. I got mountains of papers around me. I'm really working hard on this. And the whole device comes to me in a dream. It literally comes to me complete, and it did what it needed to do to handle all these things we were discussing. So I woke up 2 or 3 in the morning. I drew all these things up, spent an hour drawing it up, and I've been building that machine ever since. And so I know that was a gift given to me for the concerns I was having. And I took that as, everybody has dreams, and we all have dreams. And this certainly basically came in a dream, but that dream, it became a mission. And there's a big difference in my world between dreams and missions. We all have dreams,
but they don't turn out to be missions. Yeah.
Right. And the mission is, it puts you to bed at night and wakes you up in the morning and beats you like a racehorse until you get it done. So, and I looked at this mission as I got the privilege to drive it. I didn't even own it. This is a gift that the world needs so bad. I get to be the one to bring it. And that's right now my job, is to get to drive this mission. And that was how it was. I could not drift away from it. It would not let me go. And it had to be that way for me to take almost 3 decades. It wasn't going to let me go. So here we are. When you're building a new, say you invented a new windshield wiper, although Lord knows that would be great, it's still not affecting people's health. So when you design something that affects people's health, it takes a little bit longer. It's a little more uphill battle. There's a lot more research, a lot more money, a lot more time involved, worth every minute of it, because when you can help somebody, optimizing is great. And that's that world that we live in that biohacking world. And I love it. But I would really want to help people that have been damaged. And even more so, Gene, I want to prevent these injuries. If we all had these balanced cores, we wouldn't get hurt.
Correct. Yeah. Like if old people were moving instead of sitting on a table because they're 65 or 80 or 90, they would be in shape moving every day. They wouldn't be dying because of a broken bone and hip or whatsoever. You are right. It is really that too. Yeah.
But with me and with the Allcore here, when you come up with something different and innovative, it doesn't get accepted right away. I know when you get on it, and it'll be 1 minute, and you're going to you'll have the oh my gosh moment. And even your incredibly balanced core, like you said, it's going to point out your weak link. It's going to do it maybe the first time you even know it in your life.
Yeah.
So and you'll concentrate on it. That will be an awareness that you will be glad you know. And that's in. I think we all need to know where the weak links are, and it points it out immediately. And I think that is high value. That in itself has high value.
Yeah, I agree. But 30 years of improvement, change, modification, and what was driving all this modification or improvement or changes?
Well, you know what it was? When I first built the first one and the prototypes, there's some interesting pictures. I should show you some of the prototypes.
I would love to see that. Yeah,
they were so big. The mechanics of the time required the device to be so big that it would take up a room. And on my list of check boxes, that wasn't going to work. People weren't going to allow take up a room. So we had to keep dialing down. And fortunately for me, the computer industry, the IT industry all came on board as I was going through this development. And so we could, downsize it. And when we got the software in there, and it got just more and more efficient. And we finally got it to a size that it can go in any door. I mean, I can get it in your front door. I can get it into any room.
Okay.
It required 8x8 space, 8 foot high, but everybody's ceiling's 8 foot high. So it's now become something that almost any clinic whole gym
center.
offices.
Yeah. Well, the more and more you see what we call biohacking centers, and I think that there is one in Miami that should have your machine.
That wellness movement is finally catching on, Jean.
It is about time.
Yeah. Isn't it though? It's how silly to be given this incredible device and never worry about taking care of it properly. But people are starting to do it. They really are. It's starting to dawn. And what I'm really happy to see is, like I said, I'm an old guy, but I'm starting to see 25 and 30-year-olds, and they're starting to grasp that. So those people in that generation are going to have bodies. I mean, I wish I knew what I knew now, obviously, when I was 30. They are knowing what we know now, and they're 30.
And the kids that are coming right after, like youngest generation, they have this huge knowledge, and they know that they have to pay attention to food, behavior, sun, whatever we call biohacking, that actually is just like natural behavior, going back to the roots of humanity, getting outside and improving. So they're going to be better. I do agree on that. Thanks God, the movement is getting more and more enthusiastic, and probably because we take time to explain them that is not just for rich people or for like those guys that are spending $2 million for their health. I'm sorry, but this is not even something that should be said in our society. Spend those $2 million to educate others. It's a better way to spend money. That's my personal judgment on one. So that's why the biohacking movement is dying in its natural deaths and is shifting to what we have created, the lifespanning movement. It's more generous. It's accessible to everyone. And I wish we can have your machine everywhere in every single gym in this planet. Do you think it could be possible?
That's my goal. It's a high-tech piece of equipment, so it's not inexpensive, and I wish we could make it less expensive.
Yeah. But the mass production will make it. Yeah. How much is the machine?
If you wanted to just write a check for it and I'd put it in your house, it would be $70,000. But what most people do, oh, I know. It's when you look at the world and what you pay for that, just to be able to, and it's worth every bit of that. And a quick story. I had the opportunity to treat a young lady in a wheelchair, and I've treated many, many, many people now in wheelchairs. But when she first started, it was something brand new for her, and she started to make some really rapid recoveries or results that she hadn't been able to do in 20 years. She was doing things that she hadn't been able to do. And one day her dad calls me up and just says, I need to come into your office and talk with you. And I honestly, Sean, I was a little bit worried. I thought maybe I had hurt her or something. I didn't. I was frightened, honestly. But I loved this woman, and she was just an incredible human. So they both come in, and this is one of those real major moments in my life too. He looked across the table at me and said, Dr. Bertrand, you didn't say this when we started, but now his daughter can get on and off the commode without assistance, can get in and out of the car without assistance, can get off her bed and into a wheelchair without assistance. It has so dramatically changed our lives that if you had told me that it would cost $1 million, I would have found that money. So I don't want you to think that what you're doing isn't important or of high value. And I realized right then it wasn't about even the biohackers, it was about those people too. Those people desperately need recoveries. Those things we take so much for granted. We drive this miracle, and we pay attention to how miraculous it is to be able to stand up. But take that away from you and realize how all of a sudden it means everything. And so, working in those groups have been so rewarding. And because the Alcor has been so successful, that post-stroke space, all of us know somebody that's had a stroke.
Sure.
There's 150,000 new stroke cases a year.
Yeah.
We can help all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a space that's growing dramatically.
Well, unfortunately, yes. Yeah.
It's scary. And it's all those bad lifestyles and bad habits that got us to the stroke. But let's help these people. I mean, because normally they just spiral downhill. We lose them.
But Scott, you know what? I'm thinking out loud, and I'm a businessman, and I always kind of get the perception of everything could be turned into business as long as it helps people to be better. But look at this. The lady that came to you on a wheelchair, the wheelchair was probably more expensive than your machine, and the car adaptation and things like that. So that's the point. We are plumbing our health system, supporting unnecessity. If we put the money of our healthcare in the right spot, financing machine like yours, putting them available to people that have to be on those practices and recovery and improvement, you wouldn't have to finance the tools that we're providing to put people, as you were stating at the beginning of our discussion, in the easy state of survival and not the survival mode, just like the autopilot mode. And at $70,000 a machine, how many wheelchair that don't need the lift up electrical and things like that would you save on our system? Tons of it. How many people are going to be able to not paying probably $100,000 to modify their car because they cannot sit into their car just by using your machine? This is a business model that works and should be claimed highly and speak out there and be recognized. It's a benefit for a society.
Well, it is, and that's the very rewarding component of it. It's overwhelmingly rewarding. I mean, I'll say this, and I say this to many people. If you hang around with me for a day, there'll be several times you'll burst into tears just because you're going to hear one of these incredible stories from people who have lost hope prior to this, you know. And so we're in those spinal cord injury places, but we're also at the University of Georgia football facility. So, you know, we have this broad swath. We want to optimize ourselves. We want to prevent injuries, obviously. But then once we've been injured, we want to recover rapidly.
Right.
You know, we don't want to spend our lives recovering. We want to get it over with. And we've been able to speed up those recovery processes in a way that is valuable. That's, like I said, so rewarding. I've been so blessed. I'm so sad that I didn't, I told you it took 3 decades. I wish more than anything that I could have gotten to this space earlier, because I could have helped so many more people.
But it's never too late, especially in the biohacking space. You know, we're supposed to live up to 130, so you still have time with your machine out there to make this world change, and it's step by step. And I think that everything happens for a reason in life. If it took you 30 years, it means like it was meant to be that way, and not being like fatalist. But I think that perfection doesn't exist, but getting close to perfection takes time. It's not something that you get in 2 days or 2 months or 2 years. It's a building process. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in the state of mind we are when we get older. It would be pretty boring, actually, not having all the knowledge and all the wisdom you have when you turn 50, but being 20. What a life! It would be different. So that's how it is, and it's a beautiful things like that. Now, there's a lot of work to do to change the world, and I think that this is the problem of society. We too much facilitate the comfort. Like, you break your leg, you break your wrist. Okay, it's going to take you 12 weeks. Then you go for 6 weeks on rehabilitation and blah, blah, blah. You can fix that in 3 weeks. But no one wants to tell people to do it that way, because it's taking the minimum risk in case you get sued. That's why our society doesn't work. Doctors are acting, and the behavior of doctors is because of that. They don't want to get sued. They push back. Yeah.
And you're right. And unfortunately, it's that litigious society that has forced us into that space.
Yep.
And I don't want to get too deep into the finances of healthcare, but the insurance companies also have got their foot in the door in directing healthcare when they have no right to be involved at all. So we have created a healthcare machine that's broken. And most providers, most doctors and therapists, they go into the world to take care of people. That they really are. That's the gift. That's what they want to do.
Their mission.
But what happens is they end up going out in the world and being forced to take care of people who don't take care of their own bodies. They're forced to take care of all the broken and busted up things, and they get to watch people die in front of them. It's extremely frustrating. You know, they spent a fortune and most of their lives learning these things, and they're forced into just repairing broken bodies out of stupidity. And it's a bad place to be.
Yeah.
So doctor means teacher. And I think they need to teach people how to take care of this machine. Like I said, we didn't get our owner's manual, but the more we learn about this body, that needs to be taught in school. Like you said, these are things that need to be taught.
Education. Yeah. Education is the key of everything. Like, if we educate people how to eat or to move or to behave or to talk or to respect others, we would be living in the best world ever, because at the end of the day, we are human and we are good.
We can do that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We can definitely get into the whole conversation about our teachers and what they're teaching, but some of those things really need to be about healthcare, but in a, not just the food chart that we all saw in high school, I mean, not that stuff. You need to go outside and breathe the air. You need to take your shoes off and walk in the sand. You need to do some of these things because you were born a human.
Yeah.
You were born to live inside a concrete building. That wasn't
and
under
see the
present light.
Yeah, sit for 8 hours and don't even go outside on the sunlight. It's insane. Scott, where people can try your machine? And you have centers, you have facilities where they can go. What is the best way to first give it a try?
I would say
what you're doing.
Right.
It's important.
We have them. We probably got, like I said, we got over 100 of them in the country. We've got some overseas. We're starting to grow in Europe. I think we'll be moving into Europe shortly. But go to the website. It's just www.allcore360.com. And you can hit locations and all the locations will pop up. But I think, like we said a moment ago, we all know people that have had a stroke. So there's not a city in the country that doesn't need an All-Core in the city. So if you happen to reach out to All-Core 360 and there's not one in your local area, I think I would reach out to maybe your local chiropractor, local physical therapist, local doc, and just say, this is something I'd really would like to try. I'd really like to use, and I think it'd be of value to the practice.
Mm-hmm.
Most of our, I guess, advertising, and always the best advertising, is word of mouth, but it's slow. And and Sean, you're again so much more wiser in the core. But when most people look at the device, and even some of your listeners who watch it on the show here, if they get a chance to, it looks like someone's sitting in a recliner and spinning, and it's an amusement park ride. And how can that cause it?
He doesn't even look like Mechaner. No.
You have to look really closely to see them sweating and shaking, and but it's not visibly evident. So part of our challenge is to get over that, because so many people look at it and go, my steps are better now.
One more.
And so you do it. And that's the sad thing, too.
Yeah.
I say one thing. The world is obsessed with their abdominal area. Six-packs are, granted, they're sexy, but everybody wants. So everybody's got an ab do or ab roll or ab seat, ab chair, ab something.
And no one has six-pack.
Yeah, no one has. It doesn't work, but we want that. We know we want that.
So true.
So if it was available, people would probably use it. And 10 minutes, 3 times a week.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look. For a half hour a week, we spend more time on a commode. No pun intended. We have 30 minutes a week. You can't say you don't have time. And we're training it from your chin to your pelvic floor. So, jog to the clinic and do some curls on the way home, and you're done.
That's insane.
It's a cardiovascular exercise.
Yeah, that's the thing. So you lose weight at the same time. If it's cardio, so the benefit is on 10 minutes, you probably forecast good, I would say 8 to 9 hours fat burning process after that. Yeah, not bad.
Right. Yeah. It's and that tone, which makes it so effective, is most people, even though they go to the gym, all the little bitty muscles that are in the core that run up and down the spine, they're not in a state of tone either.
Yeah.
So when we get those toned up, they just naturally inhale more calories. They need those calories to maintain that tone. So normally when people use our All-Core, they don't change their diet, and they'll drop 5 pounds the first month, 5 pounds the second month, and that they'll have to start dieting after that. But when you drop 10 pounds without changing your diet, that's a breast size.
Yeah,
that's a belt size.
Yeah.
That says something. You'll feel better. You'll stand better. You might quit drinking Coca-Cola, for crying out loud.
Well,
it's a good start in the right direction.
I can't wait to try it. And now I have to ask you a question, because I know that our chief editor, Dallas, went to your site and tried the machine. When he came to me and he goes, oh, yeah, I tried it. It's hard, but I made it. And I'm just like, come on. Okay, tell me the truth. You now are going to tell us the truth. How was it?
Okay. Well, here's the reality of it. What we're doing on the All-Core is we're supporting the weight of our body from the pelvis up. So so your body weight matters, just like doing a pull-up. The heavier you are, the more difficult it is. So this is part of it. But so it goes, if you look at it and you're sitting in a chair, the back of the chair you're in let's call that 90 degrees straight up and down. If you tilt it back 10 degrees, there's some difficulty there. If you tilt it back 30 degrees, there's some difficulty there. So Dallas wrote it in tilting it back somewhere around 40 degrees. But there's another 60 degrees of challenge available. So
you can go lower than, okay.
You can drop 1 degree until you're parallel with the floor. So picture spinning parallel with the floor. We call that the Horizon Club. The few people that can do that, but that's
I'm pretty sure I can.
I'm pretty sure you can too.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. Those people are so few and far between. So I'd love to see that. But what I always do when that happens, and again, they're few and far between, but then I immediately ask them, what do they do? What do they do before they met me? What are they doing? And you'll find that these people do have balanced core activities. They're horseback riders. They're gymnastic people. They're people that have used their cores in the right way. They'll still point out a weakness, and we'll find.
Of course, yeah. That's why I want to try. I want to try. No, I probably have one. I'm not good. Like, it's like I'm like Achilles. There is one spot.
That you want to know where it is. You want to check that spot.
That's you can know where it is, but please don't ever tell anybody.
That's right. I'll tell you what you're going to find really interesting. The machine rotates, tilts back and rotates. So we actually hit every single fiber in the core, which is great. And we do it in a coordinated fashion. So you'll experience that. But you'll understand a right and left imbalance. That kind of makes sense. You'll understand a front and back imbalance because you probably less than most, but people can kind of see where that would come from. But the imbalance that people really don't recognize is we have a preference whether we like to turn counterclockwise or we like to turn clockwise. We actually have a preference. And so you'll find that maybe going clockwise, I got this. Going counterclockwise, oh my gosh, I'm not near as coordinated in that direction.
I know that.
And it's
true.
That one is extremely unique when that shows up. And I tell this to people because when I started noticing that, I realized my imbalances. And I had to say, back in the day, remember I'm an old guy, back in the day when we used to dance in the high school gym, we held each other. And when we held each other, we would rotate to the right or we'd rotate to the left. Oh my goodness, I was a rock star going clockwise, but going counterclockwise, I wouldn't do anything but kicking her in the leg. So I realized there was a direction I could go and there's a direction I could not go. And it was just a matter of, the way we've used our bodies. So those imbalances will eventually lead to harm if they're not made aware of and then corrected.
So you can correct them because of the neuroplasticity that is involved in the process, but you need a couple of sessions. I know, for example, that if I do an handstand, I will always fail on the right side. And don't even ask me to fail on the left side. If you push me that side, maybe I'm going to hurt myself. So this is my weakest part. Like going that way on that side. And even if I do a movement on one side or the other, it's always that side that is compromising my balance. So I've tried to work on that, but I've never forced. Okay, tell me.
Watch this, because this is perfect for you, and you'll see it happen to you because you'll understand it and you have that awareness. But let's just say you were doing a bicep curl with a straight bar, and your right hand, and your right hand is stronger, and you do 10 curls. Well, your right hand didn't work as hard as your left one did. The left side had to work harder; it wasn't as strong. So when we start the alt core, your weak link has to work harder, and so it grows stronger faster. It responds quicker. It actually, what happens, it actually passes the other body parts, then the other body parts catch up. Wow. And then you're balanced. And once you're balanced, we can make you stronger and give you more endurance. But you can see it happening. And it's because the weak link has to struggle more in the all-core challenge. It will eventually catch up. And then here we go.
That's interesting. But okay, question for you then. You want to improve or to improve the balance or let's say on the weakest part of it. Most of the time, the process in sport or gymnastic or calisthenic is you first start to understand the movement, but then you need some sort of repetition to make sure that your brain create the correct neuron pathways to be reproduced and then become so hardly wired that you don't have to think about. So at the beginning, I will probably struggle more, but I need those repetitions. So you have process is it some sort of a workout that you do on the old 360 machine, or is it some things like that create those repetition, or is just like completely chaotic in a way that you're going to have to compensate by yourself. You see what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And those are great questions. And I'm going to start with the last one there, because this is the whole deal back. It's kind of the neuroplasticity thing. So when you think about it, when you're lying when you're in the all-core and it tilts back, your front of your compartment is challenged. That hold your body up against that now being challenged. But also what has to happen simultaneously is the way the body works is your body will contract the abdominal muscles and all the smaller muscles, the transverse abdominis and all those other ones too. But it will contract those, but it also has to send back feedback for the ones on the backside to relax. Right. It's this loop, that has to occur. And it occurs at a reflexive speed. So back to learning. When we first start the all-core, and this is great because you get an immediate improvement in 3 or 4 visits. And what you're doing is, you're right. Now you're learning. This is neuroplasticity. You're learning how to do it. But let me say this, when you start an exercise, normally if we go to the gym and we're going to decide to start working on our chest and we're going to choose bench press, the rule is kind of in 6-8 weeks, we can tell we're making some progress. And that's kind of what you're hoping. You hope you hang in there long enough. But we expect something to happen right then. The all-core, you get immediate feedback. You're going to get better in just a couple of visits. What that does is it maintains motivation and encouragement. Granted, it's because you're learning how to do it.
The reward.
Not improving strength. You're learning, but it's that feedback that says, hey, I'm getting better. Yeah. Hey, I'm getting balanced. And I did that in one visit. So it's that loop, that coordination loop. So when we're starting to turn, at one point, like when you're face up, it's 100% anterior. And as it starts to turn, it goes 90%, 10%, 80%, 20%, 70%. And then all of a sudden it's 100% lateral. So you go fiber by fiber, but by combining the contraction of 2 adjacent muscle groups, you're actually developing coordination. And when you're sitting on your butt and not moving and you're developing coordination.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's an amazing thing. But it's so, and the way I tried to describe it, because it sounds so insane, but let's say this is really what's going on. It's like if you were standing in the middle of the room and I came up on your right side and pushed you to the left, and then I went a little further over and pushed you that way and pushed you that way. So what we're doing is isometrically contracting all those muscles to prevent you from getting thrown that way. And so that's why it becomes coordination. It becomes a coordinated movement. It's not just a uncoordinated plank. You're combining the contractions of multiple muscle groups. Yeah. And you're doing that without moving your body parts. You're not moving. You're not changing the difference between 2 joints.
Yeah. And so that the body explains the reinforcement of the overall, muscle by muscle all together at the end. So at the beginning, you have 1 or 2 fibers, or let's say 1 or 2 insulated muscle, but then you have the whole pack working together, like the neuron in the brain fire together.
Yeah. Well, that's right. It's called Hebb's law. When the muscles that fire together wire together. Mm-hmm. That's how we learn to play a violin. We're developing. That's neuroplasticity. So by stimulating these responses, we're stimulating neuroplasticity. And in that post-stroke world, that's very valuable. They're trying to rewire, and we're forcing the body to rewire. In the optimization world, what we're doing is making those neurons have more insulation, which means they transmit faster
the signal.
The faster the better. Yeah, the signal gets faster, and and that's what we want. We want fast, immediate responses. The nerves that the body uses for the proprioception or the body awareness, they're called the 1-alpha nerve, and that nerve transmission is 120 meters a second. I mean, it only has to go 1 meter. So what's that? 120th of a second for it to move. We've got this amazing response loop that we just take for granted. We
don't even realize where it's coming from. You are so right on that. You know what? I'm going to stay for a month there and come back and do competition then.
I really want, we got these little wristbands for people that can ride it at 0 degrees. It's, these people really are few and far between. So I would like to get you one of those.
I'll make it. Yeah, I'll make that happen. But I really, honestly, I'd like to do it more than one time, because I think that at the end of the day, it's going to help me. I'm not a perfectionist, but I'm still improving everything that I do in my life. And in my sport, even if I'm good at what I'm doing, there is room for improvement. And I'd like to have more skills, more things. And I see the time clicking. But when I look at these technologies that are now available, I'm just like, oh my, I can probably, instead of doing just a full planche up, and down, I can do 5 because my core is going to be more solid. Yeah.
And you're one of those people that can judge that. I hate to say, most of the people that get up on the device and get started, they wouldn't know their ab from their thigh, but they eventually get the hang of it. But you do have that awareness. So and by the way, like you said, one time, that's just a challenge.
Yeah.
That would be interesting, but you're not going to make a whole lot of responses.
No, that's the thing. Yeah.
In 4 to 6 weeks, we'll make some positive reinforced responses that'll last. Here's the other thing that's really great. Once you get to the balance where you want to be on the all core, it only takes 1 time a week to maintain that. Now, you're somebody who's going to want to stay driving it to the maximum. But some people are really happy with having the 6-pack and being at the ideal weight, but they can maintain it 10 minutes a week. That has a lot of value as well.
So now I'm
go back to the
our mission is like having one of your machine in Miami for sure.
We need one in your house. We need to get one in Miami for sure. We do have several people who have them in their home.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, well, when I was in Canada, I would have had the room for it because I had 6,500 square feet. But here in Miami, I live in a condominium in a tower, and the space is way smaller. But who knows? I'm not going to be my whole life. Yeah, exactly. If I have my
we need one in Miami.
Yeah, no, definitely yes. I'm going to talk about this machine for sure to the people I know. Scott, it was an awesome pleasure having you. It was due for so long. We've been chatting and exchanging on the whole platform actually, from Instagram to LinkedIn to email and every time it's a pleasure. And I'm very happy. I think we have an article or an interview coming up in the magazine as well on you from Dallas. And
I look forward to that. And I agree completely. I just feel like it took us so long to talk. We finally got an opportunity to see each other, and it's been very much a pleasure of mine, Charlotte.
It is.
I look forward to meeting you in person. I really do. And I know you'll enjoy the device. And I appreciate the opportunity to have an article with Dallas, and I think that's great. And that facility that he was at, there's such a wonderful, the Core Center in Altamont Springs is such a wonderful.
Yeah, he told me that. Yeah, that's very cool.
It's been a blessing to be involved in this. Healthcare is like that. You get to help people, and optimization is like that. You get to help people.
And
so it's very rewarding in that way.
Yeah. We're trying to change the world to make it better. That's our goal. At the end of the day, this is as simple as that. It doesn't need to be so complicated. Thank you, Scott. So,
thank you, Sean.
Guys, check this out. All the website and everything will be listed on the script of the podcast. So feel free to drop a line and to follow Scott as well on what he's doing. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Sean.